In Cloud City, Vader offered Luke a place at his side as they rule the galaxy and potentially destroy Sidious. Luke rejected Vader, but what if he joined him instead? Luke yelled as he stared down at the seemingly endless abyss down below. For a moment, he thought about jumping down before fear engulfed him. "I'll join you," he reluctantly said, mostly out of fear, but he couldn't help but be curious about the knowledge his father might teach him. The Sith are too powerful, he thought. The only way to destroy them is from within.
Good. I will train you to be more powerful than you can ever imagine. Then we must defeat the Sith Lord.
They walked away as Luke looked into the depths of Cloud City, thinking about what might have happened if he chose to jump instead. The Alliance was in tatters. Luke and Han lost on the same day, and many rebel ships and soldiers taken by the cold on Hoth. Princess Leia, usually calm and collected, didn't know what to do. She'd done everything she could do for the rebellion. Her family and her entire planet even made the ultimate sacrifice for the Rebel Alliance. But none of it mattered anymore. All hope had seemingly been lost as more and more rebel cells were rooted out after the defeat in Hoth. She powered her ship up and got ready to travel to some unknown planet away from everything, until she began to feel a presence she hadn't felt since Obi-Wan. She turned around and there he was.
Leia, you must go to the Dagobah system. They will find an old friend who will teach you the ways of my order. You are our only hope, Leia,
he said before slowly vanishing into the stars of the galaxy. Without delay, Leia put in the coordinates for Dagobah and went into hyperspace. Years went by as Leia trained with Yoda to become a Jedi Knight, while Vader taught Luke the ways of the dark side in secret. The Rebel Alliance kept being pushed back until they were forced into hiding once again. Luke was wielding his crimson saber, viciously slashing at a practice droid, when Vader came in. Luke quickly put his saber on his belt and knelt in front of his master.
It's time to face the final and greatest challenge, young Skywalker.
Finally, Luke thought, it was time to end the Emperor's reign. He initially joined Vader in fear, but he's learned that the galaxy must be reined in for true peace, and he and Vader are the only ones who are powerful enough to do it. Vader reported to the Emperor as usual, but he ordered Luke to hide in the shadows until Vader attacked Sidious. As Vader knelt to Sidious's throne, Luke began to feel uneasy. He had learned Force techniques that hide his presence, but Sidious was a powerful foe. When Vader was completely knelt down and entirely defenseless, Sidious used the Force to grip his lightsaber, attempting to strike Vader down, while raising his other hand to send a powerful wave of Sith lightning into Luke, hiding in the shadows. Vader, sensing the shift in energy, was barely able to block the impending attack from Sidious's blade.
I foresaw your betrayal long ago. Do you think of me so foolish to not?
Though Luke had blocked the Force lightning, he was shocked at the power it emitted. His lightsaber scarcely defended against the forceful wave of energy the lightning was surrounded by. Vader vigorously dueled with Sidious, while Luke rushed in the duel, lightsaber ignited shortly after. Vader began to be overwhelmed by Sidious's sheer speed and agility. Though Vader's mostly robotic body gave him a significant strength advantage, he sacrificed speed in exchange. As Sidious gained an upper hand, he began chipping away at Vader's armor, first damaging his leg, then his armor, before practically ending his capability to fight with his slash to his torso. Luke looked on with horror as his master was completely disabled by Sidious's sudden strike. Sidious quickly turned his attention to Luke, and he began to speak.
Strike him down, and you will take his place.
No, Luke screamed as he charged Sidious's position. He went on the offense, striking and using the Force to augment his already naturally powerful kicks. The dark side fueled his body with pure energy and power. Though he was already delving into the secrets of the dark side with Vader, he never was fully immersed in it until now. Luke swiped his lightsaber up from a leftward angle, but was subsequently blocked. But it was a feint. He quickly changed the direction of the attack forwards and struck Sidious's torso. After a short gasp, Sidious fell onto the cold floors of the Imperial Palace. Sidious had been defeated. The Empire was now his and his father's to rule. Leia covered Yoda's frail body with a tiny, crude blanket. He began coughing with discomfort. Yoda looked at Leia and began to speak.
Face Vader you must. Bring balance to the Force you will. A sense, a truth I have. Your brother Luke is alive.
Yoda grumbled before turning and closing his eyes one last time. Before she knew it, Yoda disappeared into the Force. Leia stood there, alone, in the cramped hut Yoda called his home. She reached out with the Force, looking for a sign of Luke, but she received no answer back. After her years of training, she'd learned to sense her surroundings, and even the galaxy beyond. But she never thought she would ever have to search for Luke with her power. She thought of him dead. She's always carried a sense of guilt that she thought she was the reason why Vader captured and probably killed Luke. Wherever he is, she will do anything to stop Vader, her own father, and to find him and rescue Luke. Leia went out of hiding in Dagobah and signaled her return to the Rebel Alliance. They receptively took her in, and she began preparations on the final strike against the Empire. The attack came as a complete surprise to the Imperials. The rebellion was on its last legs, which is why Coruscant's defenses were far more relaxed than previously. But the rebels broke through the Coruscant Imperial fleet and landed troops and caused insurrection in the lower levels of the planet. There were reports of a Jedi among the rebels, and that's why Vader was here. He strode across the large open plaza, almost carelessly, stunned stormtroopers staring at him. Blaster bolts whizzed past him as rebels took cover and aimed their rifles at him. But as they started firing at him, he grabbed his lightsaber from his belt and ignited it while keeping the same pace. He deflected the blaster bolts with ease, with many striking the unsuspecting rebels. As their barrage of blaster bolts began to slow, Vader harnessed the Force to leap across the plaza. A red spinning light swung into the entire flank of rebels as Vader threw his lightsabers at the astonished soldiers. The saber returned to his hand as the last rebel raised his blaster before realizing that resistance was futile. But Vader heard a distinct humming coming ever closer. As he looked on, he saw Leia Organa with a blue lightsaber. She stared at him intently. "You won't escape this time, Father," she said. Vader reached for a comlink and pressed it, calling for Luke to come. Leia stood firmly in the front guard Gemso stance. The battle was raging on. Blasts, explosions were being heard from the distance. Leia spoke and asked about Luke's whereabouts. Vader, however, stayed dead silent, except for the steady droid-like breathing from his respirator. With great speed, Leia charged at Vader, her lightsaber in hand. Leia came from the left, swinging her lightsaber from a horizontal angle before being easily parried by Vader. In a blink of an eye, Vader forced his saber down towards Leia, striking left and then right rapidly. She felt the repulsing heat of the saber's energy beam. Leia had just been able to dodge the saber with assistance from the Force. Using the Force, she sent a forced wave towards Vader, hoping to knock him off balance. Though he managed to stay on his feet, he was vulnerable for a split second. Seizing the moment, she raised her lightsaber above her head and slashed down onto Vader's metallic frame. While Vader knelt with pain and clear discomfort, she hastily pivoted her lightsaber towards his hands, slicing them off. Another figure drew closer, adorned with a hooded black cloak. Luke. "Leia, what are you waiting for?" Luke questioned. Leia looked down at his belt. An unfamiliar lightsaber blade was hanging from it. No, it couldn't be it. She tried to convince herself that it was some elaborate trick, but she couldn't ignore the truth. Luke had joined Vader. Luke pleaded with her, telling her how they could destroy the Sith and reform the Empire. But Leia rejected the offer and threw down her lightsaber hilt. Luke looked at her, first with disappointment, but then with pure rage and anger. He ignited his red lightsaber before beginning to dive in her direction. But he was suddenly pushed back, suspended in his position. Leia looked at Vader, and he was no longer in pain. He was in a state of complete focus and serenity. He was holding Luke in place. The battle was clearly in the Imperials' favor. He was giving her a chance to escape. She briskly walked away as Vader asked for her leave. Leia looked at the monitors of the Rebel Alliance Command Center. They seemed to be doing well on all fronts of the war. The Battle of Coruscant was simply a distraction to lure away the fleets from the Outer Rim. With the defenses lowered in those areas, the rebels began to gain momentum. She turned off the view screen and stared into the black void of space, dotted with stars. In the reflection of the glass, she could see the Force ghosts of Ben Kenobi, Yoda, and her father, Anakin Skywalker.